Walker Buehler is heading to the Boston Red Sox. And this is a huge move, really, because I think a lot of fans have been waiting for a starting pitcher to drop past the one that we've already seen be traded for, Garrett Crochet. But this is the first move that they've made since then in terms of starting pitching. And here's the source right here, Jeff Passan. 2 tweets in a row, or 2 posts, whatever you want to call it now, X, what have you. But both of these saying, here go the Red Sox going out to get Walker Buehler, $21.05 million for 1 year, and there's some incentives in there involved as well. Again, the Red Sox have had they've been a destination, rather, where starting pitchers have liked to go when they are rehabbing, any player really, because the Red Sox have a renowned training staff just that way. So Walker Buehler, another one of those guys. Wasn't out the entire year, and we'll get into that, but he's another player who was an elite pitcher and then had some injury trouble. So that's the start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Red Sox Digest. I'm Evan Sharrard, and please make sure you subscribe. If you're just finding out about us for the first time, we'll be here, me and Houston and I, we will be here bringing you all of the latest Red Sox news, reports, rumors that we can. So thank you for joining us today, and we're talking about Walker Buehler, and now I just want to get right into my reaction here. I'm excited as a Red Sox fan. This is, to me, great news. One, because Walker Buehler is, from what I've seen, watching him his entire career, he's electric. He brings the energy every game, whether he's playing well or poorly. And at the very least, he is an excellent member of the clubhouse and a surefire motivator to other players around. The other thing is, there is something to it when name value is associated with bringing in a player. Walker Buehler is a former All-Star, a World Series champion 2 times now, and this guy closed out the World Series. In fact, I want to get to that right now because that's important. Closing out a World Series is, especially when you put yourself in, like Walker Buehler did, a la Chris Sale, that takes some guts. It also takes, to know you're the right one to do it, it takes some serious will and confidence, and that's clearly what Walker Buehler had in this one inning that he pitched. Again, this guy's a starter, if you've never heard of him. Struck out 2 guys and threw 10 strikes of 16 pitches to win the Dodgers a World Series title this past year against the New York Yankees. So he has pitched against them before and pitched very well. Had a 3.6 ERA during the postseason. Strong. Now, more reaction here now. I think Walker Buehler's a really strong contribution to the staff. So I brought up a graphic that I made just to kind of show off what we're going to be seeing here. So I'll pull it up full screen. This is what I project to be the Red Sox starting rotation plus Giolito. Some teams go with 6-man rotation. Some go with 5. It's been 5 forever, but as teams are having people go shorter in games, it's time to bring out the 6-man rotation. Some teams do it. Now the Red Sox have enough starters. Also, notably, Garrett Whitlock is not in here. He's going to be healthy, but there have been talks about moving him back to the bullpen and high leverage spots. So you could add Whitlock here and say 7 guys that you're going to be considering to put into that starting rotation spot. But I've listed the 1 through 6 here of what I'm thinking will probably turn out to be the 1 through 6. The only reason Buehler's not lower is because of the money the Red Sox paid him, making me think that they're going to put him higher in the rotation. Also, remember, as we get to Walker Buehler and dig into his past stats and the outlook, there is a lot to take into account when it comes to his history because even though he had a 5.38 ERA during the regular season last year, that is not the whole story with him, as is with most. But the 1 through 6 right now, just so you can look at it, I think it looks pretty good. I don't think it looks perfect. I think it looks a lot better than it did last year. But with that being said, I think a lot of fans, especially on X, are talking about bringing in Corbin Burnes, and we've talked about it on this channel plenty. Walker Buehler, I think to some, might start the conversation of, is this the Red Sox giving up or noting that they've conceded. It's a situation where you're going to be screwed if you do and screwed if you don't if you're the Red Sox, because um, there will always be people who are going to complain about the team doing nothing, and then there will also be people complaining about the team not getting the top of the line free agent. And you never know. This sort of thing, a couple of years ago, Walker Buehler would have been lined up to getting a 10-year, $38 to $40 million contract, and injuries got in the way of him with that. So let's take a look at that. I want to get into the outlook now that we've talked about a little bit of what this means. I think this really does bolster the Red Sox rotation and makes them much more competitive. It's not going to be a team that's bringing in one or two pitchers at the back end of the staff who fans have not heard of, or only the most diehard Worcester Red Sox watchers have also heard of. And that's not to say that these players aren't good enough to play in the majors. They certainly are, otherwise they wouldn't be there. But it is saying that the Red Sox front office has gone in, signed players, or traded for players that they want to be on the major league roster, and they're putting them in the rotation, making sure that they don't have weak spots in the rotation where it's like, okay, we don't really know who's going to go there. Why don't we see what's going on in AAA, bring some guy up? That's not what they're doing. And that, as a Red Sox fan, is very exciting, because this team's like, it's pretty clear they're trying. And that, I think, is the best thing that you can expect as a fan and to hope for. But now that we've got some of that taken out of the way, I want to look into the stats that Walker Buehler put up. These are his postseason stats throughout his career. Two-time World Series champion. Biggest things I like to look at here: 1, innings pitched, just to make sure he pitched. He did in every single postseason. And then the next thing I want to look at is the ERA and the ERA plus. So 2021 wasn't the best. Gave up 22 hits, more hits than innings pitched, and then about 6 fewer runs allowed than innings pitched. That's rough. He didn't have a great postseason then, but in every other postseason, he was pretty good. Especially last year. Talk about having an ERA at 3.6, pitched in 4, closed the last one, and so I didn't start all of those. Only allowed 1 home run, and he struck out plenty of guys compared to his walk ratio, which was one of the biggest differences. I think he had a 1-to-2 ratio of walks to strikeouts in 2021. A little better in every other postseason there. So he's a guy that's got experience. He's won 2 World Series already. Sure, he's only going to be looking for more as his career moves on, and he'll have a shot with the Red Sox here, depending on how things go. Now, those are his postseason stats. Let's take a look at the regular season numbers. This is where I want to talk about his injury history and why I think personally the ERA blimped up to 5.3 from what it had been in the past. So 2017, he starts off his rookie year getting shelled through 8 games, as some rookies do. But then the next year he comes back and shows you who he really is. Been in the majors for at least 8 games before, and now it's time to go. So a 2.62 ERA, that's elite, and he finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting in the National League and was a lights-out starter, and I remember him in the World Series that year against the Red Sox and being really not afraid, but kind of scared. Afraid is scared. It's the same thing, Evan. Of what this pitcher that we'd never seen was going to do, and would we be able to beat him? Unfortunately, the series ended up in the Red Sox hands. They won the World Series, beating the Dodgers in 5 games. But it started the story that was future ace Walker Buehler, this guy who was an elite pitcher, who was super young, 23 years old, and then the next season he just goes and leads baseball in complete games and his win percentage, which is incredible, and a guy who, when he was on the mound, you're basically guaranteed a win. At a 3.26 ERA, 14 wins and 4 losses. Wins and losses, to me, don't mean that much because it is a team game, and if your team stinks, it doesn't matter if you lose every game you pitch. You could have a 1.3 ERA and give up a run a game. That's really good as a starting pitcher. But there is something to it. And when your team is out there and they know they're going to win, which Walker Buehler has provided pretty much throughout his entire career besides this past season, that's a good sign. I think the other thing is as you can look at these stats, and I'll let you look at them as I'm talking about other things here. I think that looking at these numbers, 2024 was the 1 year, really, the one full season, and it wasn't a full season for 16 games. Came back from injury. It was really the 1 year where he wasn't winning games. And it also shows that maybe the Red Sox signed this 1 year contract because Walker Buehler not only wants a prove it year, but he wants more money. And he's like, all right, I'll prove it. And then you guys come re-sign me, or anybody come re-sign me. Because Walker Buehler, his track record is fantastic. The big issue is the injuries. You can see that gray bar in between there of his 2022 and 2024 seasons. He was out the entirety of 23 and then was rehabbing into 24. He missed some games in 22 as well. That's when his season ended. Only pitched 12 games. In those games, he was 6-3 with a 4.02 ERA. That's okay. It's close to good. And then he doesn't pitch again till this year. So you're going from the story of an up-and-coming phenom pitcher to, oh no, that's a huge injury. And now he's just getting back to pitching, and he looked really good in the playoffs. Most teams like to go on a 3-year average, meaning that they'll take those games from those 3 years and determine how much do we think this guy's worth. This is what this player really is. So you have one bad year. You had one bad year. Unless there was something that's really sticking out to the baseball operations department. Now, Walker Buehler also has injury history, which makes that 3-year average thing a lot tougher. Where what ends up happening is the team looks and goes, so your 3-year average isn't great, but you also barely pitched. You were electric for the first 4 or 5 years of your career. Are you still that guy? We don't know, because you literally have not pitched, because you can't, and now you can. Which is what I think lends the Red Sox and Walker Buehler meeting together on a pretty high number for an average annual value, $21 million. And then giving him a 1-year deal. I think it makes a lot of sense. And if we go back to this graphic that I put together, if you get the Walker Buehler of his first half of his career, pretty much pre-injury Walker Buehler, he's back to what he was and what he can be. All of a sudden, you might be talking about one of the best rotations in baseball. Because the top line, remember, Tanner Houck was elite the first half of the year and then had a rough second half, which, if you can even use the term, inflated his ERA to 3.12, which is a strong ERA, very, very good, then say it. But he had like a 2.4 ERA near the All-Star break. He was incredible. Crochet, we know all about him. You don't, you can watch an older video about him. He is an elite left-handed strikeout machine that doesn't walk a lot of hitters. He's awesome. He is a true ace. Tanner Houck, right there. At his best, he's also a true ace. Brayan Bello has been extended for a long time and has shown flashes of being, he gets the comparison all the time, almost Pedro-esque. This past season, I thought he had a lot of bad luck. And I also thought it just seemed like he could never really get his footing and feel comfortable. So hopefully the work that he's done over the offseason will really help. And he'll come out just like he did 2 years ago when he was the best pitcher on the staff and looked really deserving of a young guy who is going to be an elite pitcher. Then you've got Walker Buehler. who, if he returns to form and has rehabbed perfectly out of his injury, he's also an ace caliber pitcher. And then you got Cutter Crawford, who at his best looks like a really good number 2 and also led the league in home runs allowed last year. And when I say led the league, I mean he allowed the most home runs. I don't mean that he allowed like 3 home runs and was incredible. He was really good in the first half of the year and had a similar story to Tanner Houck. And I think that goes back to Andrew Bailey's breaking ball, throw your best pitches, and then teams started preparing for that. And then Lucas Giolito, who's another injury question mark, coming back, who stayed with the Red Sox, decided to opt into his contract, keep that 1 extra year. He wasn't just going to get paid, never play. He wants to go out onto the field and play. So he's also in a prove-it situation because this is the final year of his deal. And that means that, hey, maybe there are going to be 2 pitchers, depending on what happens, that the Red Sox could be taking a chance on and turning out one way or another. So that's all I've got for you today. I know it was a little bit of a longer video. Thanks for hanging with me in this new setup I've got going on. Hopefully it's acceptable and it's working well for you guys as well, not too distracting. Got some flowers on top of the fridge, got my headphones in the back, a clock, a fire extinguisher, and you got me right in the middle. So thank you all for watching. I am Evan Sharrard saying so long. Go Red Sox.